What's good, folks? Welcome to another episode of the Cover One Film Room, the show that gives you the hows and the whys behind the good and the bad of the Buffalo Bills. I'm one of your two hosts, Anthony Prohaska, joined as always by Eric Turner. And
Let's go.
Eric, some wins are pretty and fantastic and beautiful, like a couple weeks ago against the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah.
Some wins are a little underwhelming and feels like you're really trying to squeeze as much blood out of the stone as you can. But at the end of the day, a win is a win is a win. And it came out of holiday weekend. Eric, we are out of the holidays. We are out of the Bills trip to Los Angeles where they came away with a win. And we're here in the film room to break down a bunch of important pieces that came out of that game.
Yeah, and RJ, he
That win was gross.
Yeah, he says that win was gross. No, it was rough. It was rough. And the Bills on both sides of the ball started off a little slow.
Yes.
And we're going to get into a bunch of that film tonight, a bunch of the analytics that came from that game. Yes, it was a rough start to the game. But as you said, man, this time of the year, just get those dubs, just get those wins, stack those wins. I mean, backs against the wall.
Yeah.
And the Bills on both sides of the ball really came out on top when the moment was needed, right? And that's what this show is going to be about, the resilience. You talk the staff and the players talked about how resilient this team is. And again, they're just scraping away, just stacking those wins, stacking those dubs. And I think on both sides of the ball, they did a great job of just overcoming a slow start and some of those, lulls and just sticking with it so that they could get to the next play. And then on that next play, when their backs were again against the wall, they made those plays in those clutch moments.
Yeah, the clutch moments were so important in this one. Obviously, it's why it's in the title for this episode. It's a big piece we're going to talk about tonight. And I think this game was a really good example of how the situational aspects of a football game go such a long way in deciding who wins it. I think what's the proverbial saying like that everyone goes by now? There's like every 2 to 3 moments in every football game that decide who wins and swing the pendulum, yada yada. But within that, there's also those bigger situational pieces like third down and red zone work and turnovers, what you do off of turnovers. And there were so many things that happened in this game that when you look back on it, even from a raw box score standpoint, but really from how the game played out, the Buffalo Bills could have very easily lost this game and maybe even probably should have lost this game. I remember somebody came into the post-game show when I was doing it with Greg that said, I know the Chargers had that turnover at the end, but really it was 3 turnovers for the Bills to none for the Chargers. And teams that have win the turnover battle 3-0 had a 90.7 win percentage or something. Something ridiculous. The Bills turned the ball over. They were sluggish on offense for the majority of the game. They allowed the Chargers to score 6 times in that game, but 5 of them were field goals. They were able to bend but not break, as we've seen this defense do time and time again. And they stood up situationally in the red zone on third downs defensively. They were able to capitalize and come away with touchdowns instead of field goals when they had the ball. There were all these little breadcrumb moments that really worked against the Bills. And I felt like it was also a little bit of karmic justification because it seemed like so much this year the ball has not bounced the Bills' way. They've had these crucial turnovers that always kill them and gut them. And this game, they had them, but they were able to stem the tide, hold on, kind of batten down the hatches, and no pun intended, circle the wagons. And that was what the difference. They lost a lot of things in the grand scheme, but they won these big situational moments, and that made the difference at the end of the day.
Yeah, and we're going to start on the defensive side. Can you imagine if the Chargers play where they did the throwback was completed and got up the sideline for a touchdown? Can you imagine doing this show tonight if that
I wouldn't have done it? I would have broken. It would have destroyed me.
On Christmas weekend, oh my God, that would have been so Billsy.
But and I had to do the post game with Greg. Can you imagine? I would have been I'm out. I can't do this. I'm moving to a remote island.
For this.
No, I'm out. No, thank you.
It just in the effort from Benford and Hamlin on that play to contain it, and again, the wall was set up along that sideline, force that receiver to get back up inside to right into all the pursuit, and then eventually end the game. That would have been hell. This week would have been hell.
I just had, rest in peace to Frank Wycheck, who passed away tragically and suddenly recently. But I saw that throwback happening, and it just took me back to the Music City Miracle and Frank Wycheck throwing it across to Kevin Dyson. And I literally was just like, oh no, And then,
Yeah.
but then, yeah, he got forced. He went back inside, and I was like, just that, man. I don't even want to play that game of what it would be like right now. Oh my, we thought it was bad at certain points under Dorsey, and like after they had
Yeah.
some losses this year, that would have been, I never remember what's worse on the DEFCON scale, like 5 or 1, but whatever the worst part is, that's what it would have been. It would have been awful.
But that was kind of the epitome of this game. You know, the Chargers were setting up. The Chargers were driving down the field.
Mm,
The Bills defense was bending, but
mhm.
they weren't breaking. They were holding the Chargers offense to field goals. And on that play, again, it was a heady play by two players, and it really bottled everything up on that play. And so we're gonna start on the defensive side. And I thought, for the most part, again, the defense, they bended, but they didn't break. And I thought they threw a lot of basic stuff at Easton Stick. They didn't get too exotic,
Mhm.
because McDermott typically, when he plays these inexperienced quarterbacks, or even young quarterbacks for that matter, he likes to just throw a lot of, different things at them and different coverages, nothing exotic. And I thought it was pretty vanilla for the most part
Mm,
until the Chargers got to those situational moments, those third down moments, those
mm.
red zone moments. And then, as you'll see in the film, that's when McDermott started throwing those curveballs and changeups and started locking down things. Again, especially once they crossed at 50 in the 40-yard line, he started doing some really cool things from that perspective. And I think some of those moments were too big and too much pressure on Easton Stick to overcome.
Yeah, I think it's very well said. A lot of things early on, or I guess in the, between the 20s or before things got situational on third downs and red zone work, it was a lot of, yeah, just basic like, no, here's some cover 3. No, here's some cover 2. Just like, yeah, everybody cover your spots and we'll see what
Mhm.
happens. And then we saw him turn those dials a little bit and press certain buttons when he needed to. And I think that again, like we talked about, and like we're going to show on the tape, like that was a significant piece in this game. The Chargers had the ability to move the ball and be set up in really good situations from a field position standpoint. Like there were multiple drives. The majority of the scoring drives for the Chargers came either around midfield or in Buffalo Bills territory. But when their backs were against the wall, when they really needed to have a play, especially defensively, Sean McDermott was able to dial up some things to either win and pinpoint areas of vulnerability within the Chargers and expose them, or just got blanket statement, like you said, like confuse Easton Stick, heat him up a little bit, make him hold on to the football. And we just saw those big moments reflected. That Ed Oliver sack to end the game, again, nothing crazy with that from a schematic standpoint, but that one I felt like was such a good microcosm of this game. It was just like, hey, it'd be great if somebody made a play right now and ended this game, and
Mhm.
Ed Oliver went out and made a play, like to end the
Yeah,
game
right
right
away,
there,
like
right
right
away.
away, which
Yes.
obviously took some clock away from the Chargers and really kind of whittled down some of their options going forward in that drive. Yeah, that was crucial, and they need Ed Oliver to make those kind of plays.
Yes.
Someone in the chat's already mentioning Daquan, and hopefully he does come back either this week or the next week, because again, the Bills could really use him. And I will say, if we kind of transition into some of those unsung heroes on the
Mm.
defensive side of the ball, I do think it starts inside at defensive tackle. And then Ed Oliver he's not unsung. He is playing at another level right
He's
now.
sung out of here.
Yeah, he's sung. Yeah. uh, I will say, I think Puna Ford, and I'll even throw some flowers at Tim Settle, because
Yeah.
again, he's had a rough career in Buffalo so far. I think those two guys are unsung heroes in this game. Puna Ford and his ability to attack as a pass rusher, that was not expected, especially because that's where Jordan Phillips actually typically shines, not
Mhm.
in stopping the run, but more so attacking up the field, especially when you're talking. Sometimes they put him at edge. They
Yeah.
use him on those twists and stunts. He's pretty athletic for a guy that's his size. And I think Puna Ford really opened up some eyes in this game and really sees that opportunity in this game. And that's why I think he was one of those guys that we both agree is an unsung hero from this Chargers game.
Absolutely. I love the Jordan Phillips point too, because I'm so sick of watching games and hearing the broadcast team be like, "Oh, Jordan Phillips is out. The Bills' run defense is going to suffer." And I'm like,
They
"Have
did
you
say
ever?"
that too.
Yeah.
They did say that. Yeah.
Have you ever watched the Bills' defense play football? Like that's not what Jordan Phillips does or what's good at. But whatever. To each their own, I guess. I had been looking forward to seeing Puna Ford in the lineup. I thought when he did get work, he was effective against the run this year. He was stout against double teams. He was good in one-on-one work. There were multiple reps in the Buccaneers game where he just blew up plays. And
Mhm.
again, smaller sample size for him, but I liked what he offered. And I know, you and I talked in text before Linval Joseph came on, and it just didn't look like
Mhm.
last year Joseph had the legs, and which is fine. Like, given where he is in his career, like he is not, all pro caliber Linval Joseph. He was a body to take a spot, and he's been all right, to kind of be
Yeah.
kind to him. But I've been wanting to see more of Puna Ford in this lineup, and unfortunately, it came at Jordan Phillips's expense. But yeah, Ford, what he added from a passer standpoint, and they were quality reps. Like the
Yeah.
2 sacks, the spin move was gorgeous. The sack off the Ed Oliver disruption was beautiful with what he did from like a reading the track and his hand usage. And then, yeah, I love that you mentioned Tim Settle. He had so many plays where he wasn't getting blown off the line of scrimmage. He was working hard against double teams. He was working down the line of scrimmage and scraping. You weren't seeing displacement happening against Puna Ford and against Tim Settle. Tim Settle was also getting penetration a bunch in this game. And it was nice to see that interior step it up with potentially, Daquan Jones waiting in
Yeah.
the wings and strengthening that interior even further. But this was a nice game for Puna Ford and Tim Settle, along with Ed Oliver, who, is a sung hero at this point.
He's a
But
sung
yeah,
hero.
but it was nice to see, if it, him being Batman and having like 2 Robins in this game with what Puna Ford and Tim Settle did, and they controlled the interior and made some splash plays.
Yeah, Tim Settle, again, I thought he flashed more in the run game, but as you can
Mhm.
see, according to PFF, Puna Ford was second on the team in total pressures, 3 on the day. Ed Oliver led with 5,
Mm.
2 hurries and a tackle, 2 hurries, a sack, and a tackle from Puna Ford in this game. So I thought, again, it was given his size and his build, it was to pull out that spin move that we're gonna
Bro,
see. Like that was
crazy.
pretty, man.
Yeah, he's like a bowling ball with arms, and to see that level of, and it wasn't like he lucked into it. He hit it off rip. Like he
Mhm.
stepped, he set it up, he hit it. It was tight, it was fluid, and yeah, it was a big play in that game. It was when, and I think that's what it was too. And not only was it a good play from him, it was in a moment when the Bills needed a big play to be made, and
Yes.
it continues to fit into the theme of this game, which was when the Bills needed a play offensively or defensively, they got one either from design schematically, again from Brady or from McDermott on the defensive side, or from an individual player making a really strong individual play. And again, bunch of clutch moments in big situational, high leverage situations is what turned the tide and won this game for the Bills.
Yeah, so let's get into some of the defensive side of the film. We're starting there, then we'll get to the offense here in a little bit. But I thought overall, the communication by this defense was on point in this game. And I want you to watch this movement by the Chargers. Now, again, third down situation here, 3rd and 1 in the first quarter, 6:43 on the clock. The Chargers are motioning at the snap into a 2-by-2 set, and they're trying to get the ball to their tight end right here on a follow concept. I want you to watch as this motion is happening. Look at all the communication happening by the Bills defense. The Taron Johnson telling Rap to rock and roll out to this wide receiver. Look at Bernard right here giving some communication and hand signals to that side of the formation. Again, they got 3 eligibles to the top of the screen. So you have a crossing route right now. This guy's coming across the middle. He gets passed down from Bernard to Dodson. And so now with the running back exiting out again, Eckler. That's where they want
Mhm.
all of the eyes to go to, right, Anthony? They want everyone to jump this route out here. They want Poyer, they want Douglas to jump that route out wide so they can sneak this tight end over the middle. But watch Bernard, man. He's on point right here, and boom, helps take away that inside leverage gained by the formation and the motion and that shallow drag. Everyone is covered. Easton Stick is forced to hold on to the ball. There's no one open. He even tries resetting, and there's just nothing there, and it goes incomplete. Another one of those situations where there's great pre-snap communication, but also great execution in a critical moment.
Yeah, this kind of set the tone for what things were going to be like situationally with this 3rd and 1. And again, this is you're in the low red zone. There's only 1 yard to go. Like you have that opportunity. And the Bills just, like you said, they covered down everywhere. There is nowhere to go for Easton Stick. I love the call out there for Bernard, the way he walls off Everett. We've seen. Oh, I'm trying to, if anybody's ever watched the New Orleans Saints, like they use these concepts all the time. They'll get that follow piece from the running back or from the tight end. Like Jimmy Graham has scored a bunch on it, Juwan Johnson, like these good high executing teams will use this in the low red zone. It's a good concept, and the Bills just pass it off and communicate perfectly. We get to see a little bit of some, air traffic controller Terrell Bernard here. There was a bunch of that in this game, and look at as this play progresses, no one is open. The one option is starting to come free in the back of the end zone for the Chargers there now. Yep, he's coming through, getting away from Dotson, but that's a hard throw to make. And also with where that receiver's going, Rapp can pull off his guy and potentially make a play. But for, I don't know, like 92% of this play, there is absolutely nowhere to go for Easton Stick. Everybody nails down, they cover down, they stick to their men, they get hands on bodies and don't let go. There was nowhere to go. And Rapp's even barking there for a little bit, wanting the interference call on Palmer down there, which I like. Linval Joseph drops Easton Stick. Just really good coverage in an important situation, setting the tone and setting the tempo.
Yeah, good stuff to start that game. Again, critical moment, 3rd down and short in the red zone. They get shut down and end up having to kick a field goal there. So let's go forward a little bit. 3rd quarter, so second half here. 3rd and 8 situation, another 3rd down situation. Bills are up 14-10 at this moment. And this is a blitz from Douglas from the top of the screen, off the edge, not accounted for, supposed to be accounted for by the quarterback on this play. But I love the zone blitz here. It's a risky blitz, though. It's a risky blitz because, again, you're having Cam Lewis come from the, too high safety look to kind of cover the tight end to the top of the screen. So he's got to come a long way. But because Easton Stick is looking to the field, to the bottom, he doesn't even see that Everett is open. And right now he could give it to Palmer right here, but he sees these guys kind of, closing in on him on 3rd and 8. Who knows if they get it? But a quarterback should give his guy a shot on this play. He doesn't. He holds onto the ball, and you see Douglas get home for the sack.
This is one of those examples we talked about earlier, kind of taking advantage of Easton Stick a little bit and taking advantage of his lack of experience and heating him up again in a critical situation. 3rd and 8. This is an example, again, like we talked about in the lead into this episode, of McDermott dialing some things up with some creativity in these high leverage situations like the 3rd down. And Rasul Douglas has been so good for the Bills since coming on. I love that he doesn't tip his hand initially, like he's lined up, head up on his man. Yep, Eric, you're on mute. What do you got?
I said it's disguised very well.
Yes, absolutely. Like he's just head up, eyes are on Everett. He's not peeking inside. He's not leaning. He's not tipping his hand whatsoever. Then on the snap, he comes screaming through. So no indication. Like you said, he disguises it very well. I like the pop out too from Leonard Floyd. He engages a little bit to influence the protection. You've highlighted him right there. Comes forward, engages Pipkins, and then immediately drops out. So you get a man into the low hole player in coverage. But as you've highlighted Taron Johnson there, Pipkins is now engaged with Floyd, which allows Taron Johnson to come free off the edge, forces that running back into protection. He was the only option to kind of pick up somebody who was leaking through, which is part of the reason Douglas comes scot-free off the other side, in addition to Easton Stick not reading him as his hot and being his guy. So even if that pressure doesn't get there, where he wants to go to on that right side, Floyd is dropping right into that window. So again, Easton Stick had the opportunity to make this play, but you got some disguised looks. You got, a little wrinkle and a different turn of the dial in a high leverage situation, and good execution from the players as well. In addition to that, good design.
Yeah, that's good stuff. Great call. Again, some of these calls, pay attention to the area of the field that they are making these calls, because that's very important. Anytime the Chargers seem to cross midfield or get into that 40 to 30 range or get into that field goal range for this tremendous kicker of the Chargers, that's when you saw McDermott take some of those risks and start to, again, change some of those dials and throw those curveballs. And it worked more times than not. At the very least, holding them to the fringe of the field goal range, making them kick those long field goals in those situations. So I thought McDermott did a great job of doing that for most of the game. So here's another play, a 3rd and 9 situation in the 3rd quarter, 8:05 on the clock, 14-10. Bills are still up. And they're running their quarters variation where they lock the backside here. So man-to-man to the bottom of the screen, and then they're just flooding the zone with the other defenders to the top. But look at the pre-snap communication prior to this play as I let it roll back. Look at all of the communication at all 3 levels. DBs with DBs, linebackers with linebackers with the first level and defensive line, getting everything set up prior to the snap. Post-snap, they do a great job of taking away It looks like the primary is supposed to be right here, Johnson.
Mm,
Douglas takes him away. Again, great trade by Bean, getting
absolutely.
a cornerback one at the trade deadline. And Douglas, he's done a great job. Perfect fit for this scheme. Kind of, hits that collision point, takes that away. That's all taken away. And then you're going to see the pressure from Ed Oliver help Poona Ford get this sack from the end zone angle. So watch from the end zone angle how Ed Oliver attacks inside right here and then comes back outside, and how that forces Stick to step up. And then here comes Poona Ford for the slam dunk. This was a nice tee up from Ed Oliver on this play, and you'll see Poona set up Ed Oliver later in the game, but great work by Ed, creating and disrupting chaos there. And Poona Ford finishes the play for the sack. This was a big third down stop here by the Bills D line.
Yeah, and it was a great read from Puna. This is, what one of the plays I was talking about earlier, and you have it highlighted there. Oliver sets up Puna. Poona Ford reads the track and the path of Ed Oliver here. Like he gets funneled to the middle, and look at Poona Ford's eyes. He is literally locked on to Easton Stick. And so as Ed Oliver gets upfield and forces Stick off that spot, you've got Poona Ford IDing everything Easton Stick is doing. And that it's almost kind of like creepy. It's like he's watching Stick through the bushes or like peeking in through the window. Like he's just watching everything that he does. And boom, it's so instantaneous.
Right
When
there.
Ed Oliver gets upfield, you see the hands and the quick arm over from Poona
Yeah.
Ford, and he gets penetration. He is playing off of what Ed Oliver is doing, kind of waiting, but kind of baiting is there, not baiting the quarterback, biding his time. Couldn't think of the word there. Biding his time, waiting, and boom, Stick gets put off the spot from Ed Oliver, and instantaneously Poona Ford wins, gets inside, and gets that sack. This isn't accidental, like, oh man, really awesome that Ed Oliver funneled him into Ford. This is Poona Ford making that read and playing off of Ed Oliver, who again did a great job disrupting this, getting Easton Stick off the spot. It's a nice two-man work. Ed Oliver does the setup and Poona Ford with the finish. But either way, it's a great play. Again, in a big moment, third down, red zone, in a moment of the game where the Bills needed to stop after the offense was kind of shooting themselves in the foot, and Poona Ford answered and cleaned up for Ed Oliver making the initial play.
Yeah, and much like we talked about last week too, Anthony, the pass rush and coverage were complementing each other
Mm-hmm.
really well. You saw the communication prior to the snap happening, them figuring things out, and you heard, I think it was McDermott that talked about, hey, they threw some different wrinkles at us in this game, and you saw the Bills defense have to do a lot of this communication, almost like this was something new. We didn't prepare for this, and they're adjusting on the fly. But look at the pass rush, how important it was to stopping Easton Stick on this play. Bernard, he opens and hinges this way because he's expecting Palmer to cross behind him. But what does Palmer do? He sits down. If Easton Stick is able to avoid this pressure, step and reset back into the pocket, he's got Palmer, and that's probably a touchdown. That's how important the pass rush is to the coverage, and vice versa. They have to be within the same, time frame, within the same timing, within the same rhythm. If they're not, if they're off half a click, this is a touchdown. And so great work by that D line, creating that pressure and finishing the play, most of all, finishing that play,
Mm-hmm.
creating that sack, and once again, forcing a field goal on that drive.
Absolutely. That's a great point too. We've seen when this Bills defense has really clicked this year, I think, for me at least, I think their top two performances are against Miami earlier in the year and Dallas. And I know that Miami one ranks really highly for you. You did a tremendous breakdown of it on that Monday after before we did the film room. Those two examples are just what the Bills defense can do when the pass rush is marrying well with the coverage. And that goes a long way for anybody. You can have the best coverage unit. You can have the best pass rush. But if things aren't clicking, if you're not playing the right coverages to go with the right pass rush, if you don't have the right pass rush to match with the coverage you're playing on the back end, if you have that disconnect and that disjointed nature from front to back or back to front, it's going to kill you. And it can make a real quality unit look inept if they're not supported and playing complementary football with the other.
Yeah, and real quick, if you guys have any questions or comments, suggestions, hit us up with a super chat. We'll bring it up on the screen and answer your questions live. Help support the show. Again, we couldn't do any of this without you guys. So back to the film. Fourth quarter, 8:44 on the clock, 1st and 15 situation. This is another play on early in the down this time, 1st and 15, but it sets up and really keeps the Chargers on the fringe of field goal range here. And it's another play where you see the D line wreaking havoc, specifically Poona Ford on this play, just spinning against that 4-man slide and creating that pressure on Easton Stick, and then Ed Oliver and Floyd finish play, and we'll watch it from the end zone angle. It's freaking pretty from Puna Ford here. I love this play here. So Ed Oliver's going to spike inside, and he's doing that to occupy the center and the guard, obviously. So now you got one-on-ones everywhere else. And I feel like Puna Ford understood the pass protection here. Like, you're locking on Von Miller, and then everyone else is sliding to Ed Oliver and Floyd. That makes sense to me. And so the hinge player is this guy. So he essentially has to play in 2 gaps. He essentially has to play in this gap and this gap. And I think that Puna Ford knew that. And you can see him use that cross chop spin to the outside gap. I mean, that's some nimble feet there from a big dude. And it's so quick. Like, that spin move is so quick. And you see him win that edge. And once again, force Stick up into the pocket. And Stick wants to step up here, and Floyd dips inside right there. And so then he wants to get out the back door here. And then the spin move by Ed Oliver. Everyone's doing spin moves here. Look at this spin move here from Ed Oliver to contain Stick and lay a big lick on the quarterback to bring down him for the sack. A big play here. Again, setting them back a little bit for this drive. Look where they're at now, 8-yard line. That set them back a little bit on 1st and 15.
Yeah, this was in the midst of that fourth quarter where things were just not going good for the offense. They were turning the ball over. They were committing penalties. They were taking sacks, and it just looked like they were kind of potentially going to give this game away. And contrary to what we'd seen in other games earlier in the year where the defense eventually finally broke, they did not in this one. And like you said, this was a big moment in a big spot in the game. You hit the hand technique piece from Puna Ford, so I'm not going to, add on to that too much. But the sink out of the spin is what gets me. We spoke about it on a play from Ed Oliver last week. When Puna Ford comes out of this spin, that dip and the ankle flexion on that left ankle, that's a lot of tension and torque from a weight perspective being put on that left ankle and that foot. But he dips the hips and gets that lower body lean, and that's what he uses to almost kind of like slingshot and leverage himself through the spin. Like, that's not easy. We commended Ed Oliver for it last week, but he has a quite a lighter frame and different body type than Puna Ford. So watching Puna Ford make that play, like you said, that's extremely nimble. The balance, the bend, the flexion, the burst, the hand technique, all real pretty from Puna Ford to make this happen. And I love that you pointed out the Leonard Floyd and Ed Oliver pieces, the adjustment and the reading and reacting. It's not enough to just, okay, do your rush. Like, sometimes the quarterback's track is going to change. Sometimes his drop is going to change. And Puna Ford gets his man off the spot. Floyd is seeing it. He cuts inside. You've highlighted Ed Oliver right there. Ed Oliver's peeking inside. He sees what's happening. Like you said, so Ed Oliver puts on the brakes. He spins out and acts as that force player outside, in addition to Floyd taking away that inside angle from Stick being able to step up and continuing to help flush him around the corner. And then even Puna Ford, like, wiping out and falling on the ground and getting right back up and getting after Easton Stick. This play was such a good example of, technique, but really effort from all 3 guys, like just being relentless, your initial plan, but then pairing it with your reads on the fly and making an adjustment and making a big stop. Just relentless effort from all 3 dudes, like junkyard dogs, man. Like, that was a big play and they needed it.
Yeah, speaking of big plays, here's another one, a disguised simulated pressure here. So damn near everyone is up near the line of scrimmage. They're mugging the A gaps here. They're Bernard and Dodson in both A gaps, and they're showing pressure. But post snap, what ends up happening is they're actually only rushing 4 here. They're dropping out Lawson. They're dropping out Rousseau. They're in man coverage across the board. And the cross dog, the twist between the 2 linebackers was just nasty. So it gives the illusion of a blitz that's coming, but it's also attacking the pass protection, specifically who are covering the A gaps. And I'll show you from the end zone angle who's covering the A gaps here. So you see the center is covering this A gap right here. So the running back is covering this A gap, but the Bills are setting a pick. They're setting a pick on that center with Dotson. So Dotson's first on this stunt. He's going to set a pick. Bernard's the looper, and Eckler hugs Dotson a little tight right here. He's trying to essentially squeeze Dotson here and really hold the depth of the pocket. They don't want the pocket to be pushed in the face of Easton Stick. But what that does is it opens up a short angle right here, a short corner right there, and you see Bernard hit it. We talk about it every week. Anytime we see this guy rush, it's one of the traits that stood out to us the
Mhm.
most coming out of college at Baylor. And you see him just smoothly throw by him. And again, he finishes. He finishes the play. You know, he plays under control. This is a great scheme, a great call, and a nasty simulated pressure. Again, only 4 guys are coming on this play. Ed Oliver becomes a contained player. Tim Settle becomes a contained player. Rousseau and Lawson drop out, and the linebackers make this play on this twist to bring down the quarterback.
When this defense was really clicking in the early parts of the year, we saw success with their 5 and 6 man pressures, but we saw Sean McDermott find success with simulateds and creepers. And it's been a nice piece for him to lean on at different points in the year. And he leans on it here. It's a great job from an execution standpoint, design standpoint, like you said up front. And I like seeing the cross dog piece. This is now what, the 3rd game in a row where we've seen this cross dog action versus, it being in high leverage situations, moments where they've needed it, especially usually in the second half. But we really didn't see this look a lot through the early portion of the year. And it's something they continue to find success with over and over. And oh, Eric, we got to stop. We got a super chat here from Jabo. Thank you very much. That is tremendous.
Jabo, what's up, buddy? Man, it's good to see you again.
And he says, love you, Eric. Congrats on all your success.
Thank you.
That's absolutely tremendous. Thank you for being
Jabo.
here. And man.
Yeah, that's very humbling. Thank you very much, Jabo. It's been a while. He's one of our insiders. He's in the Slack channel with us. He's been riding with us for many, many years now. Jabo, hope everything is well. Thanks for joining us in the film room. And of course, that donation, man. Thank you very, very much. If you have any questions or anything, concerns, throw us those questions and concerns, and we can answer them. Otherwise, man, thank you so much. Again, we couldn't do any of this stuff, the telestration, the platform to put this on social media and YouTube. Like, we couldn't do it without generous donations like that from Jabo.
He must just be a really big cross dog enthusiast. Like, he just is
Yes.
super excited from it. I guess the cross dog just bring out everybody. That's man. I'm taking it back. That's awesome.
It's perfect timing, right? Because you're right. Like,
right.
we're gushing about the cross dog the last couple of weeks, and Jabo hopped right in.
Yeah, as he's like, yes, I love cross dog. Take my money. And yeah, it's a great, push of the button from Sean McDermott in this instance. And I like how you highlighted Eckler. He's a good pass protector. Like, he made his living on 3rd down earlier in his career before becoming like a 3-down back. Like, he's heady, he's aware, he's a good pass protector. So the fact that they're able to cross him up, no pun intended, is really nice. And Dodson has done such a good job as the spiker on this cross dog action in these 3 weeks that we've seen it. And Bernard doing a good job as the looper. And you highlighted it there. Eckler, he gets too tight to Dodson, and just that short porch that's created there for Bernard. And look how he doesn't waste his time. It's fluid. It's effective movement. You see the left hand there coming through, and just watch. It's literally like an Olay with the right arm. He doesn't even put an arm over. He just swings that arm back, brings his shoulder right through.
That right leg right through over the top of the right leg of Eckler. It's smooth.
So smooth, so fluid, like a running back cutting through the hole on a zone run and just being like water fluidly going through. And look how tight Bernard is to Eckler. There's no wasted movement. He doesn't have to, gear down and change his path and turn. Like, he's able to just maintain speed because of how smooth and how fluidly he gets by Eckler. That's part of the reason why he's able to get home. There's no opportunity for Stick to really make anything happen once he sees Bernard, because once he sees Bernard is on him, and his path to Easton Stick is so fluid and so efficient because of the setup from Dodson and then also his path to the ball. This is something I think we're going to continue to see, this cross dog action. And I would say maybe like 2 or 3 times a game going forward. And it's, I don't know, I think we're sitting at like a 97% success rate right now with this type of look. They continue to hit on it because of how good of a looper Bernard is and how good of a spiker Dodson is.
Yeah, hands down, man. It's fun to see linebackers rushing, typical guys that typically don't rush the passer coming after the passer, guys that typically rush the passer dropping out into coverage in Lawson Rousseau. It can be confusing, especially to a young or an experienced quarterback, not a young, but in an experienced quarterback like Easton Stick. And so we're going to go forward. to the fourth quarter, 23 seconds left. This is the first and 10 situation. This is a sack by Ed Oliver. But once again, I want to highlight the communication prior to the snap. After the motion, you see Rapp and Bernard communicating to each other. Now there's a trips bunch set to the top of the screen. So what you see Rapp signaling to Bernard, hey, we're running a box coverage. We're running 4/3. To the bottom of this the screen, you have Taron Johnson manned up. You have Benford manned up to the wide side of the field here. And so as the ball is snapped, Ed Oliver in his post game at his locker after the game, he talked about setting this up earlier in the game. And I want to show it from the end zone angle because all he does for most of the game, what he was doing was hezzy rushing and diving into this A gap. And then on a play earlier in the game, he hezzy rushed and then went outside and there was a penalty. So the play didn't count. Well, that's what he does here. Kind of hesitates and then he tries chopping down with his right hand. But the guard does a good job, Anthony, of using that circle punch where he makes his hands disappear and then boom, he punches him. But because of the explosiveness and speed of Ed Oliver, he already has that guy open. His hips are already open. He's already halfway by him. That guy has lost that half-man relationship. He doesn't have help from the tackle because the tackle sees that Von Miller's out wide, but he's looping inside. And so Oliver wins that pretty cleanly. And again, this was a huge sack because the clock ended up having to run here on this look. And I'll highlight that, Rousseau's in here at D tackle. Floyd's out wide there. They're kind of doing a similar type game. And this is just a big play from the defensive tackle, Ed Oliver. And it came at, the moment that they needed one, and he came through.
Yeah, this effectively ended the game for the Chargers here. And I think most people who are Bills fans, even though, things look good for the Bills at this moment, were kind of a little worried with how much time was on the clock and thinking the Chargers only needed 3. And it's like, oh no, like just please close this out. And here comes Ed Oliver to literally close it out by himself. And yeah, he goes with that chop rip, but effectively like chops the air and does nothing else. But it's that burst and explosion out of it, like you said. And then we see some lean as he leans through that arc of the guard and then explodes through with leverage. And then he even flattens a little bit as he turns the corner, the core strength and the power to be able to push through the guard. And then the theme in this game, not just getting pressured, not just heating up Easton Stick, but when they would get to him, they got home, they brought him down, and he's able to clear the guard and flatten so easily that he's able to increase his surface area so that he gets that arm and that clothesline almost on Easton Stick, but he's almost able to get chest to shoulder and chest to chest with how much he can get on him. And that's because of that speed, that burst, that leverage through that outside shoulder of the guard that allows him to get clean and make the play on Stick. And this is what you want from somebody who you committed significant term and money to in the offseason this year, somebody who looks to be a core piece of this defense going forward that, all of a sudden needs to know who their core pieces are going forward. And it's awesome to see him shine in general, but especially in a moment that effectively closed out the entire game, not just for the defense, but for the Bills in general.
Right. Yeah, I love the timing of those pressures, of those sacks, of those stops. Like it just came at the perfect time and it just made me during the game live, it made me feel a certain sense of comfort with how things were going on the offensive side and how it was inconsistent. The Chargers were moving the ball, but in those moments of when you got to have it, like they came through and close things out, close drives out, again held them to 3 points or punts at times. And I think that was really the story or the name of the game when we're talking the defensive side of the ball. So someone said it in the chat, that specific play where simulated pressure where you're only sending 4 guys and they're keeping in 6, like that's a coaching call. There were a bunch of those plays and schemes in this game. So, Flowers got to go to McDermott, but also to the Bills defense. Again, they stood up when they needed to.
And they absolutely needed to. The offense, like we talked about, they were playing sluggish at times, shooting themselves in the foot with turnovers and untimely, potentially costly turnovers. And yeah, this defense stepped up in a way that they needed them to. This game was, I'm sure people would just say kind of like, trying to find the silver lining in it. But this game was very much a game that good football teams win. Like, what can you do when you're not playing your best football, when things are not going your way, when you, whether it was the game plan or your in-game execution, when things don't start out well, how do you adjust as a team? How do you adjust as a staff? How do you put those ideas in terms of adjustment on the sideline into practicality and execution on the field? And the Bills adjusted. They were able to make plays in high leverage situations like we highlighted defensively. We're going to talk about the offense in a minute, but this was very much, this was the thing that keeps sticking in my brain is this was one of those games where it felt very much like a Chiefs game the past couple of years, where you're watching this as a Bills fan and being like, man, the Chiefs could really lose this game. And then they just pull it out in the end because they made more big plays or more big situational plays. How many times have we seen this type of game from the Chiefs versus the Broncos or the Chiefs versus the Raiders, and they end up with one more win than the Bills, and that's the difference between
Mahomes
them being the
he does just enough, and that's kind of what Allen pulled in this game. Let's be honest, when we're talking the offensive side of the ball, it was again those moments were like, okay, they got to have it, and typically it was Allen this week as opposed to last week. It was like James Cook and someone else, the week before. That's one thing that we've talked about with Brady is the ball is going all over the place to different players at different times. And I think that's a great comparison and analogy because it did feel like a lot of the Chiefs wins. It felt like a lot of the Patriots wins during their dynasty. Like, sometimes you just things aren't going your way. But in the end, when those moments arise, you have to somehow, I don't want to say pull a rabbit out of a hat or just do enough, just do a little bit more than that inferior team to pull it out. And the Bills, and we're talking the offensive side of the ball, especially, they did it late in the game, as we'll talk about once we get to the film.
Yeah. And, McDermott and the staff on that side and the players as well deserve their flowers, like we talked about, for the game plan, the execution, the schematics of it. And, going with that analogy, it's this type of game where after everybody's like, man, what a great job by Steve Spagnuolo. What a great job from Bill Belichick. And that's that defensive side. And then the offensive side, it's, Mahomes making some play or Tom Brady making some play or Peyton Manning making some play. And that was Allen this week, pulling some, to go with your phrasing, there's some rabbits out of his hat at times. And that was nice to see, especially considering how the game started out for him, where, even just the first play of the game, that pass to Stephon Diggs, he basically kind of dirts it. And that's kind of how pretty much the majority of the first quarter went. And even sporadically throughout the rest of the game, he just didn't look his sharpest from an accuracy standpoint, a mechanic standpoint, some of his reads and decision-making. But much like the defense, when the offense needed a play, when they needed something to go their way, Allen stepped up. Some of his weapons stepped up as well. And it wasn't the cleanest performance on the offensive side of the ball. But again, like the defense, when they were presented in these high leverage situational moments, the offense stepped up either by design or from an individual player standpoint. And at the end of the day, we're able to capitalize in those big moments and contribute to this win.
Yeah, and I will say, of all the game plans that we've seen from Joe Brady this year, this was one that I didn't quite like. And whether they came into the week with the idea of running as often as they did on early downs, or it just kind of came up, which I don't know if it would just come up during the game because they weren't really running it all that well, especially if you're talking in that first quarter.
Mm-hmm.
For this game, they had a 57.7% run tendency in this game. And on early downs, like according to True Media, like the early down runs really threw this game out of whack when you're looking at the run pass ratios. And the Chargers actually did a really good job of slowing down the Bills on first down. So listen to some of these stats courtesy of True Media. So the Bills rushed 78.3% on first down. That's 18 attempts. That is crazy. On the season, they're typically rushing 52.4% of the on first down. So that's 18 attempts on first down is crazy when you consider that they weren't running the ball all that well. In this game on first down, they rushed for 4.1 yards per rush against the Chargers. In the first half, it was 4.8. In the second half, 2.5. On the season in first down, they only averaged 4 yards per rush on first down, and that's 20th overall. So they're not the best team running the ball on early downs. And in this game, for them to run it 18 times on first down versus 5 passes, especially when you look at some of the stats on those passes, on first down, it was just all out of whack. So I did not like this game plan from Brady. It's probably the worst one he's had so far.
Yeah, and I liked how he eventually figured out mid zone was going to be the go-to, and they just spam the hell out of it left and right. Oh, we got stop. We got super chat. Morning, Mayan, Miss Linda
What's
West. Thank you very
up?
much for being here. She's pretty much here regularly, constant supporter of us.
Yes.
Always says very kind words. Thank you very much for being here. Thank you very much for the super chat. And she says, "Merry Christmas, guys, and thank you." And then she says, "Also, how about a cover one get together somewhere? We always have the one that's always pretty much status quo come training camp time."
Yeah.
As soon as Bills open training camp, we usually all flock to St. John Fisher and cover, but then do some sort of get together in Buffalo. So maybe something else could be
Yes.
potentially, in the works aside from that one. But that one's a gimme every single year. So that July-ish, August-ish time, whenever training camp opens, is a given. But Eric, maybe potentially something else. If
Yeah.
what the people want, the people get.
Yeah. That's something that has come up in the Slack channel when we ask our insiders, hey, what do you guys want more of? Whether it's content, giveaways, meetups, that is usually one of the top three. And so we'll look into doing that. As Anthony said, we normally do the training camp one in July at St. John Fisher, and we'll usually meet up with people in Rochester, but then also do one in Buffalo to kind of cover where most of our family, friends, and our insiders are from. So something to keep in mind. We'll definitely push the envelope on that. It would be cool to do some more of those throughout the year. You're muted. Ah,
Well, it's been real.
even
Have a good
Steven.
one. I'm
Even
out. Yeah, we
Steven.
are. We're tied 1-1. Yeah, it's always fun for us to get together as a team and as a brand, but to your point, like even more so for that ability to connect with the people who support us, the people who watch the shows, the insiders, anything and everything. Like it's awesome to be able to have that connection. So maybe we'll see what happens going forward in that. Thank you very much, Linda, for that. Appreciate you. And I think Eric, within that vein, the insiders, we've talked about the insiders, we've talked about the Slack channel, and people are able to get to that piece because of accepting, I don't know, what is like, would there be like some kind of pass, like a one kind of pass or something like that we offer as some kind of like membership thing that gives you special access to stuff within the brand and knowledge? And would that be a thing that we kind of offer?
Absolutely. And again, take a moment here to listen to Greg and Aaron. They're going to break it down for you. Again, we couldn't do any of this stuff without you guys. They're going to show you, what your insider access gets behind the scenes and on the website and YouTube channel.
Many people ask us the best way to support us here at Cover One, and that is to sign up to become a Cover One Pass member. That contribution helps give us the access to all the data and information we use to create the content that you love.
And I think most importantly, brings you into our community of insiders. It's a great community based on Slack. I know a lot of people don't want to be on social media anymore or be in on those conversations. We bring all of it to you right in our great community of educated fans. And most importantly, you get access to our content creators.
Even better than that, everybody loves merch. You get awesome t-shirts, a cool decal, and a letter from the Cover One team signed directly to you.
All for $60. That gets you the entire season, next year's free agency and draft. $60. Click the link in the description. Cover One Insider. Become one today.
And Eric, continuing that conversation here about the Bills offense in this game, you talked about Joe Brady's game plan and the run centric or run focused nature. And it was nice that, he was able to course correct, especially once like tackle wrap and dart wasn't working. Like the Chargers did a great job getting push and penetration on the interior. They were closing out that front side. They almost had it pretty well scouted. You saw them flashing and quick triggering whenever they saw a tackle pulling, which is what I thought Dallas would do at some point the week before, but to each their own. But they had an answer for that. So it was nice to see the Bills kind of reach back into the bag, hit some mid zone, hit some duo, be able to find other ways to have success on the ground. But then there's the other passing numbers as well and everything that I know you got in your back pocket here when it comes to speaking about this game. But it was, again, that disjointed, sluggish feel early on, but the Bills were able to feel some things out and then kind of bring everything together holistically.
Yeah, it was just mind-boggling to me that Brady continued to run the ball. Again, 78% of the time on first down when they actually had a lot of success on first down. And they're usually one of the best teams when you're talking throwing EPA on first down. In this game, again, they only attempted 5 passes on first down. But on those plays, they had a 1.66 throw EPA on first down.
That's crazy high. For those who don't know, that means
high.
They're averaging almost like 2 expected points per first down throw, which is insane.
Yeah, and typically on the season they're ranked 7th overall in that number. Usually it's a 0.19, so they're 7th at 0.19. In this game,
Crazy.
1.66. That kind of puts it in perspective. And those 5 passes were the following plays. That first play to Diggs, which counted as a completion, that was probably the least successful of
Yeah.
those 5 passes. They had the 57-yard touchdown to Gabe Davis. They had the 2 drive starter plays to Knox, where they're, the one was a fake crack toss and threw it over the middle, and the other one was that 4 eligible, the 4 strong formation where they kind of have that swing screen and they get the guy open over the middle again. And then the audible where he ran play action and threw deep to Davis. Those are all first down plays. So I just didn't like the game plan from Joe Brady. But in the end, Josh Allen pulled, again, the rabbit out of his hat, because he did struggle early. But I think, this struggling run game in that first quarter helped him in the second quarter get back on track, because some of the throws that you're going to see early on weren't there. And he was a little late on some of the progressions. His mechanics were a little off. He was just out of rhythm. But I think the offensive line and the run game actually catapulted them to eventually take the lead going into half.
Yeah, I was really nervous early on when I saw Allen struggling and then the run game not really working. The Chargers were owning the line of scrimmage individually and schematically. Like it was worrying me from the perspective. I was like, is Josh going to start to feel like he has to put everything on his shoulders? Are things going to snowball negatively? What are we going to see? But yeah, he was able, like you said, to pull some rabbits out of the hat. Again, Brady went into literally like the same mid-zone run play over and over again with just motioning Trent Sherfield and jet motion.
Yeah.
This is the second week in a row where we've seen him just be like,
Back to back.
this works, and just I'm going to keep pushing this button, pushing this button, pushing this button. And it worked. And they needed it too, because they needed some easy buttons. And to your point, I think it started to jumpstart the ease and the calm that started to wash over this offense, and then Josh started to operate within that, make some big plays, and we started to see success.
Yeah, so let's go back to the first quarter, 13:30 on the clock, 2nd and 8 situation here. Josh Allen under center on this play, and they're running play action, and he has Diggs on this deep over route versus Derwin James. He has him, but he also has a free rusher in Murray, the linebacker, coming here, and Mitch Morse peeled out, but he's got Khalil Mack. So Josh is under duress here. He's making sure this corner is chasing Davis on this leak concept right here, but he has Diggs right here. Now, he doesn't have quite enough time. I mean, I'd say it's debatable. I do think he could anticipate this and throw this. And honestly, he doesn't even have to set his feet all that much. Just throw it to a spot.
Yep.
And Diggs is going to separate from James, as you can already see happening. And I think this is a big completion early in the game. But again, the pressure that Josh under duress, and he's not able to connect down the field with Diggs.
Yeah, I always hate being too critical in the moments where you got like a free runner come in, right down the pike and in your face. But you hit exactly what my point was. He throws this ball a bit more upfield. Throw this more horizontally and lead him to the sideline. There is literally all the space in the world from the hash to the sideline there. Put it more towards the sideline. Put it more outside the numbers instead of up the field. That's where Diggs has the leverage. That's where Diggs has the advantage in being able to run away from Derwin James. And again, it's understandable. He can't step into this throw. He sees what's happening in front of him, like you highlighted with Davis going across Michael Davis going across the field with Gabe Davis.
Yeah.
And so that space is going to be vacated. Gilman, number 32, Kendricks, number 6, they've both honored what's happening to the left of our screen here. So they're IDing with Cook and Dawson Knox. There's so much space. And, again, footwork and platform and all that kind of stuff are off. But if he can just put this more to the left and out in front of Stephon Diggs instead of more up the field to Diggs, this could have been a completion.
Yeah, hands down, man. I think he's made these throws routinely at this
we've
point.
shown a ton of him making these kind of ridiculous off-platform throws.
Right. All right. So first quarter, 3rd and 8 situation here, 13:24 on the clock. So essentially the next play here. And this was a little package that they ran a couple times in this game where they're kind of stealing some of that Miami motion, where they're motioning Shakir into the trip set, getting his speed going, and they're just trying to pull that middle defender Kendricks over here. And it works, man. It works really well. Josh is looking to the top of the screen to that isolated wide receiver, but then he comes back across the middle, and Gabe's making the break right now. And he has several yards, damn near 7-8 yards on this guy. Yep. And Josh has him. I don't know why he doesn't pull the trigger on schedule here, because Davis is wide open and this middle of the field is wide open. But Josh, once again, kind of holds it. And then now you have a defender, in his face, and he's trying to make this throw late. And it, of course, gave that defender time to make a break on the ball and break it up at the catch point.
When I saw this play happen on the broadcast, my initial eyes were going to Murray coming out of the backfield and being like, man, Allen had Murray. Granted, he was releasing late, but man, there was so much space. Everybody vacates to the bottom. He could have checked it down to Murray. Big play. Watching it here on the All 22, it's exactly what you said. Like, he's got Davis immediately coming on, on this in. I don't know why he doesn't pull the trigger, because he's also staring him down the whole time. It's not like, oh, well, he was looking left or he was looking more outside to the right and then saw Davis flash and then pulled the trigger. He's got everything he wants. There is no one inside. There is no one with inside leverage. Shakir pulled Kendricks. The safety to the left side of the field is already basically at the numbers where Alohi Gilman is. You have him highlighted right there, and he's coming forward.
And he's telling Kendricks to stay put. I'll rob this. He's telling Kendricks to stay. So again, the design worked. It pulls Kendricks out of that passing lane.
There were a couple plays also like that, like side note, where there was communication happening between the Chargers and the person giving direction. It was not being followed. Like,
it was ignored.
1,000%, which is what's plagued them a whole bunch this year. Someone being like, no, drop this. I got it. And the person underneath would be like, no, I'm just going to do whatever I want to do. This worked perfectly. This is what they wanted. Shout out to 37 for coming up and making the play. But yeah, this was there. And the end zone angle here does a really good job showing it. He looks left, boom, his eyes are on Gabe Davis right there. I don't know why, exactly your point, he's not pulling the trigger here. I don't know why he waits. I don't know why he fades a little bit in the pocket. There's nothing to give him pause or give him conflict or think, should I make this throw? It's wide open. And because he delays, because he's late, it allows that safety to close down and make a play on the ball in an aspect where 3rd and 8, this should have been an easy 3rd down conversion on a good route by Gabe Davis and a good design from Brady.
Top of the drop. Eyes are there. Eyes are in sync. Feet are in sync. Throw the ball. Trust your receivers. Get the ball down the field. Get the first down. That was there. It was a great design from Brady on that play. But again, Allen was off a little bit early in this game. Here's another play. First quarter, 3:43 on the clock. Another 3rd down situation. This time, 3rd and 5. And on this one, watch Gabe Davis over the middle, kind of hooks it up and then pivots back out to the boundary. And he's open.
Route.
And he is open. He creates separation. And there is pressure. Murray does a good job of stepping in there versus Murray, the linebacker.
Yeah, I would say Murray versus Murray.
Murray versus Murray. And you see Josh climb the pocket. And when I watch this live, I'm like, wow, he stepped up. He usually doesn't step up. He doesn't step up often, especially from these plays where he's taking like 5-step drops like you see this. You kind of see him start to fade away after 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then you see a couple more fades right there. But instead, he climbs the pocket and he comes scot-free. And we're like, oh, perfect. Bang. Here comes Gabe Davis. Hit him. And then his eyes and feet aren't in sync, as you'll see from the end zone angle. And that pass goes incomplete. Watch again. You see him top of the drop, kind of fades. Oh, step up. And now he's got a passing lane right over here. But watch his footwork. Look where his foot is pointed. So we always call it the hallway. So this is his right foot. That's essentially the way it's pointed. The arch of that foot should be pointing at the target. Okay, it's definitely not on this way. It's definitely not. The hallway is out of whack, and you see him. He has to throw across his body. It's an all-arm throw. The mechanics are awful, and the pass goes incomplete to Gabe Davis.
Yeah, it would just be nice to see him be able to flip those hips and, like you said, get his body pointed towards the target and be able to throw through this. He throws it almost like a second baseman who's turning a double play against somebody who's really slow out of the batter's box, like where, okay, cool, I can just elbow this thing and it'll get to first, who cares? But given the distance and the angle for Gabe Davis, this body position is awful. And again, to his credit, we've seen him pull ridiculous throws 100%. Off of horrible platforms and ridiculous arm angles and all this stuff. But this time it cost him and cost the Bills early on this play. And it was a shame too, because really good route from Gabe Davis against a good defender in Derwin James. Like, he gets him to bite hook, line, and sinker. He sells it with the body language, and boom, puts his feet in the ground, breaks, pops
Yeah.
it back out. I
Makes
like
it
how
look like an over, like that deep
Yes.
over, and then just pivots back to the boundary.
He even, like, as he starts to work on that over, he literally looks across the field. And as he looks across the field, then he breaks it down. Here come the eyes. Boom. Literally right there. He's looking across the field, selling it. If you're Derwin James, you're thinking, oh, okay, he's trying to run this right underneath Diggs and Michael Davis, number 43. Let me get on my horse and try and get over the top on him. You see the body language from 37 there as well, like also reacting to it. And then this is a good job, just does it in about 4 steps, sinks the hips, breaks, pops back out. That is a ton of separation against a good defender. So good job to Gabe Davis. Good job, Latavius Murray, with the protection as well. Also, shout out to Osiris Torrance for finding some work and putting Tui Pelotu into the turf. It was a nice pocket. And yeah, I love that you mentioned the point of we don't really see Allen step up into the pocket a lot. I got mad hype when I saw him do it, and then to see the throw go by the wayside, I was just like,
such a letdown.
Like,
it was such a letdown.
Yeah, big time.
Well, this play wasn't. This was the play to Davis for the touchdown. It's a simple play that we've broken down several times. Josh is going to look to the top of the screen on that curl swing. This is that momentum swing in the second quarter that the Bills needed. 9:12 on the clock, 1st and 10 situation. This is one of those 5 passes on first down in the entire game. And so this is the second drive of the quarter. Josh is looking to that curl swing. The Cook, it's not there. He now is going to number 3. He's looking at Kincaid. He kind of slips coming out of the break. This route right here by Shakir is open. And I want you to pay attention to this little curl route or hitch by Diggs on the bottom as well. But the route by the number 4 receiver here in this progression, Shakir is open, but there's pressure off the edge against Spencer Brown. Josh has to step up in the pocket. Then you have Khalil Mack getting right into the face of Josh, and Josh slides to his left, does a great job of moving the pocket there, then gets out the front door. And now it's scramble drill mode. And once the defense plasters down, the Bills get the advantage here because you got a linebacker against Gabe Davis going deep. The deep crosser by Shakir pulled the safeties out. So now you have 1-on-1. And this is where Gabe really excels when you're talking scramble drill mode down the field in these big plays. Josh makes it look so easy on this play. And it's such a great play down the field by him and Gabe Davis for this touchdown.
This is just like, this is awesome, but also like super frustrating. Like, why can't you hit the friggin' 10-yard in to Gabe Davis? That's easy and basic, but you like can pull this out, which is so much harder and so much, it has such a higher degree of difficulty. Everything you highlighted there, like the only thing I want to add is the awareness from Gabe Davis once we get into scramble drill mode. He's eyeing Allen. He sees Allen have to evade and, like you said, escape out that front door and get to the sideline a little bit. And I love how he turns here. And as Gabe Davis turns, he IDs Gilman, 32. He's got his eyes on him as soon as he turns at the 50. And then as he keeps going up, IDs him further. And that's part of the reason he continues on the path that he's on in order to get upfield. And like you said, he's against Kenneth Murray. That's advantage Gabe Davis. But it's so much more than just, oh, okay, like, let me just get upfield and see what happens. He gets upfield, IDs the safeties, and sees where that open space, where that green grass is, and makes himself available. And then you get the tremendous drop in the bucket throw from Josh Allen on the move, onto the right. You get that labeling like they have there from Connor McGovern on the nice recovery. Eric, why don't you speak to that piece? Because I know you're a big fan of what McGovern did in this game.
Yeah, I thought when we're talking the offensive side of the ball, he was an unsung hero in this game. And this is another one of those plays that really kind of falls by the wayside. So I want you to watch McGovern here on this pass rush by Mack. So Mack takes the inside move on Dawkins, and McGovern's helping Morse initially solidify that inside gap. And then as Mack beats Dawkins inside here, look at McGovern spin around and Josh slide to his left. And then boom, right there. McGovern's there to help Dawkins there late in this play. And once again, that gave Josh just enough space to move to get out the front door here as this edge rusher blows by and gets Josh out the front door on that play. And then, that pass, that dime by Allen, along the outstretched arms of Gabe Davis to seal that, that play there outside of structure on first down. That's why this was our real estate rewind play of the game, sponsored by Jonathan Miller of Metro Roberts Realty. This was just, this is the momentum swing that they needed, Anthony. This is what they needed to, again, kind of ease our concerns as fans and analysts, but also, you know, to get that rhythm on the road after the short week. Like, okay, now the juices are flowing. Josh made one of those superhero type plays that they need every once in a while.
Absolutely. And I like this comment here from RJ saying, has there ever been another QB where they make the 11 out of 10 difficulty throw, but miss the 2 out of 10 difficulty throw? And that's part of the yin and yang of Josh Allen. Also wanted to highlight this piece from Sarah. She's saying, no idea why that safety dropped down. He, like Eric mentioned earlier, he is reacting to Khalil Shakir going across the field on that 45-yard line. So Gilman, that safety, is seeing that flash of color. He's reading Shakir and then also seeing Allen rolling out. And then also, like Eric has highlighted, he's looking at everything, seeing, okay, Murray is on Davis. My outside corner is on James Cook. I'm reading the flow of play from Josh Allen. Also probably playing
here.
No one's got Shakir. He's got to pick him up. Also, if you're playing it from a probability standpoint, you're probably thinking, oh, he's going to try and throw this to the sticks, you know what, like 15, 20 yards in front of him rather than uncorking a moon ball downfield on the run. So he's reacting to Shakir and playing situationally there. So that's part of why you see that safety drop down. But again, tremendous play from Gabe Davis, tremendous play from Josh Allen, nice recovery from Connor McGovern, and that's why this play is our real estate rewind play of the game, sponsored, of course, by real estate agent Jonathan Miller of Metro Roberts Realty. Jonathan uses cutting-edge technology to help you sell your home faster. He's got professional photographs, 3D virtual tours, drone photos, and videos that are all included with each listing at no extra charge. He loves working with buyers and sellers in all price ranges. He donates a portion of his commission from each sale to help rescue an animal. His phone number and contact information can be found in our episode show notes, whether you're watching here on YouTube or listening on one of our podcasting apps and or platforms.
Yeah, just awesome stuff, man. Awesome stuff down the field by these guys. It was definitely needed. It was definitely needed, but it didn't end there. That momentum swing kind of helped the Bills, obviously, in the second quarter. And this is when we started to see some of those mid-zone runs that you talked about. And I thought this is when the offensive line of the Bills actually started to take over. And Brady, again, spammed these runs. So this is the second quarter. 3:56 on the clock. Chargers are still up 10-7 here. This is a 6-yard gain, but I want you to watch the combination block between Torrance and Morse and the displacement that they are able to create. You have the jet action across the formation by Sherfield, and really nice work here by Cook. Look at it. Hug this combination block. Let those guys displace and create a new line of scrimmage, and then he just goes off the left hip of Morse there. And again, it's only 6 yards, but this was that moment that Brady was realizing, oh, we got something here. We can attack them, even if they have several guys in the box. And they did multiple times on this drive.
They literally ran this play like exactly this way. What, Eric, like 6, 7, 8 times, something like that? Like same play. You're getting that motion from Sherfield. In this instance, you've got Dalton Kincaid at the end of the line of scrimmage there with Gabe Davis, but they also ran it a bunch where Kincaid would be David Edwards and you'd have an extra lineman in that scenario, but they just spammed it over and over again. Like you said, it's, you know, it's only 6 yards, but it's an easy 6 yards because of the displacement that's created up front. And that's my highlight, Spencer Brown there. You nailed the pieces with McGovern front side and then the double team. Look at the hands from Spencer Brown. I'm sure Aaron Cromer loved this action from Spencer Brown. What precision. And Eric, we saw this a bunch in this game from Spencer Brown in the run game and in pass protection.
Yes.
Really good hand usage. And when I say good hand usage, I mean precision in terms of hand placement, but also pop and violence in the hands. 93 goes to establish contact. And as he reaches, Brown just chops him right down in the wrists or at the wrists. 93 falls forward into Brown and bear hugs him. And then Brown just finishes him and gives him kind of like a belly to belly suplex, like he's ECW Taz, and just drives him into the dirt. Eric, I know you're a huge wrestling fan like I am, so I'm sure you love Taz and ECW. I could see the excitement on your face as soon as I mentioned that Taz reference. Just really beautiful execution up front. And I think that's what was so encouraging or exciting for me in this game with these mid-zone runs. The offensive line was working with a lot of precision in terms of their individual play, but also in terms of their movement as a group. And you saw that reflected in the success of these runs. It wasn't by happenstance that these mid-zone runs continued to work. It was because of the execution up front and James Cook being able to flow in these runs. But there was so much to like across the board with the offensive line, front side, back side on a lot of these mid-zone runs. And it was important because it's what got them going offensively.
And it's important from Brown's perspective to chop down the hands of this defender, because what has been his biggest issue as an offensive lineman over the years, his ability to anchor, or lack of ability to anchor. And that can be applied not in just a pass game, as you saw in this game and on the season. He uses that snatch trap a bunch. Anytime that pass rusher is trying to long arm him and use power moves against him, he snatches and chops those hands down. They lose their leverage like this. But this applies in the run game as well. That defender's trying to stack him and then run down the line of scrimmage in his gap. But by throwing and chopping those hands down initially, that throws him off balance. He loses all control. He loses all leverage. And then you get the five-point hip throw there for the pin. I mean, just awesome stuff from Brown in the run game and the pass game, as I posted on Twitter yesterday. But here, you talked about it. They also ran it sometimes with David Edwards here on the backside. But I want you to watch, first of all, Morse, McGovern, and then Torrance on this play. Watch, again, the displacement, the combination work here, how McGovern on the backside here cuts this defender off and really seals the hole on this zone run. Look at that. That's just fantastic work by Morse, McGovern, and Torrance, even on the front side of that play. It just splits that gap in half, gets Morse on that second level defender, and Cook gets up inside for an easy gain on, once again, a mid-zone run.
Yep, mid-zone run with that jet motion action from Trent Sherfield coming across the screen, and then you're running that mid-zone to the weak side. And I think this was the first one, and maybe the only one, where they got a bare front look inside with, Mitch Morse and the two guards basically both covered up. You have a, 3-tech, a 0, and then another 3 on the interior there from the Chargers. And it's so subtle, that feed block from Mitch Morse, just that little punch to the shoulder. And I'm really so impressed by what McGovern does here. He gets his hands inside, and that turn, like, this is hard. He gets hand placement. Yeah. He gets the hand placement, the extension, and then he just is able to swing those hips and swing himself inside and completely seal the inside for James Cook. You highlighted Torrance on the front side of the run, getting into the kitchen there, Johnson, and being able to force him outside and seal him. And it seems like we talk about this every week when it comes to the Bills run game. What you want to see is a running back when you're going through that hole. You want to see the backside of your offensive lineman. You know that it's going to be clean and it's sealed. And that's what James Cook gets as he goes through here. He gets a backside from Torrance. He gets a backside from McGovern. Mitch Morse is climbing to the second level and getting hands on Murray and driving him out. This is just so well done internally from an execution standpoint and athleticism standpoint. Really well done from a technique standpoint for the offensive line.
Right. So same drive, second quarter, 123 left on the clock. This is Fournette in. He gets 5 yards on this play. But once again, you get that bare front look where your center and guards are covered up here. It's tough to run against usually. But this time, watch the displacement by Dawkins on the backside on Fox. You see the feed block by McGovern right there, how he feeds that defender and gets that guy running horizontally off the screen, basically. And then McGovern still looks for work as Murray shoots the back door here. And as he's reading this, what's happening right here with this defensive tackle, Murray goes back door. And so you see McGovern read it and use his long arms to just get a piece of that guy so that he's not able to totally bring down Fournette. But again, a 5-yard gain, and it's via the ground, and it's by the offensive line working together, creating that displacement on a multitude of runs on this drive. And this is really the drive that, once again, I think the Bills offense kind of took over and really put my concerns at ease going into halftime.
Yeah, once Brady started spamming this, it made me feel a little better. I was like, okay, they've ID'd the weakness. They got something that works. They can keep pushing this button until the Chargers do something to stop it. And it was nice to see all the variations, against the fronts it worked against, the personnel they were using it out of. Really, obviously, love the finish here from Deion Dawkins. This finish worked out. That when I first watched it, I was like, oh, Morgan Fox probably tripped over somebody and kind of fell down. Fox doesn't trip over anyone. Deion Dawkins just punishes him to the ground by getting that left arm into the neckline and basically into the face. Yeah, just torques him to the ground like hard. There's no tripping on McGovern or tripping on someone else. Like Dawkins just rides him to the ground. And I love your point on Connor McGovern. And I think at times people think like good blocks just have to be clean and perfect. You need a pancake or you need to completely seal someone. Sometimes it's just as simple as getting a hand on a shoulder and changing someone's momentum or changing their plane of leverage and allowing your running back to run through an arm tackle or a shoulder instead of a chest. That subtle little movement there from McGovern just to get that piece on Murray, that's the difference from Kenneth Murray being able to, and you have the arm highlighted there for him. That's the difference in Murray being able to fit into the hole and going chest on chest or chest on shoulder to Leonard Fournette versus only being able to try and put an arm to Leonard Fournette and Fournette running through that arm. And it's just that subtle little move from McGovern that makes that happen and allows more yards to be gained.
Yeah, and so similar personnel on this play. Watch the work inside. This is a 9-yard run by Fournette. David Edwards is in. Watch how he takes Khalil Mack right there for a ride inside. You're coming downhill. It's a dual run versus, again, that bear type front, that tight front up the middle there. And Fournette just bounces it out wide here, and he's able to get 9 yards on this run to put the Bills in business inside the 5-yard line.
Yeah, starting to go into another concept that's worked for them this year. And again, like you said, going against that bear front, this time duo instead of being a mid-zone piece, and everything just works front side. Deion Dawkins, boom, you got him highlighted there. He's getting extension. He has sealed his man. Mack dives inside. David Edwards washes him down. Beautiful block on the outside by Trent Sherfield on Derwin James. Just gets hands on him and rides him the whole way downfield. Doesn't lose contact, is able to drive him downfield. And then even Gabe Davis is able to bang with 37 a little bit, impacts him downfield. Again, gets a bit of a hat on a hat, and it's the reason 37 can really just kind of fling his body in and kind of gets run over by Fournette, and Fournette falls forward a bit. But this is where things started to build a little bit, and you were seeing that similar look. But now where they might be thinking, okay, here comes the motion in the mid zone, it's like, nope, everybody's going to stay static and we're going to run duo and just get downhill on you.
Yeah, so now they're inside the 5. Again, the clock's running. They're running the clock down going into halftime. And so now they go back to their bread and butter. It's dressed up very nicely on this play. So tight formation here to the bottom, Knox in line. You see Gabe Davis in that C gap as well. And they're just running their dart play, right? They're just running that tackle pull with Deion Dawkins. They're using the eye candy with James Cook to the wide side to pull this defender outside of the box. And what they're doing is they're pulling Dawkins, and he's just going to log block the edge defender. And you have the easy walk and run by Josh Allen on this play. So here it is from the end zone angle. Watch Dawkins, but again, watch Spencer Brown. Watch him go get a piece of Murray, kick him out, and then look at this lane. Touchdown Buffalo, man. This is their bread and butter. It's dressed up a little differently. It's in the low red zone. You better have a guy accounting for Josh Allen. If you don't, this is what happens.
I thought it was funny that they struggled so much in this game with, their tackle wrap stuff. But of course, like they scored a touchdown on it just to get like a successful play with it. And yeah, Josh Allen sees two backsides as he runs into that front side, the backside of Brown, who's kicking out Murray and driving him. And great highlight with the log block from Deion Dawkins. And for those who don't know, that log block is exactly what you see from Deion Dawkins here. So when you get an edge player crashing down, you can either have them kick out, which would be Dawkins getting right into the chest of Tui Pelotu and pushing him out, and Allen would cut off of Dawkins's backside right here and go inside. But instead, what you get here is a log block, which is another option you can do against a crashing edge, which is what Eric has highlighted with that little arc, that little loop. Dawkins comes around the outside, takes that outside shoulder, logs him inside, basically traps him and pins him inside. Allen reads it, cuts around, follows him, cuts off his butt, and gets upfield. Just bread and butter concept, like you said, even when I feel like it was purposeful, like they were struggling with it and they're like, no, we're doing something good with Dart this week. And it's going to be this touchdown. And nice that it came on the quarterback run option to kind of add a little extra thought to this play to make the Chargers have to account for something else, and really well blocked up front.
Yeah, and that put the Bills up 14-10 at half. So that was a huge play. And
in
so
a first half, Eric, where they were like sluggish and disjointed and they missed opportunities, really didn't play good ball offensively. And you're looking going into half, you're up by 4 against a team that was playing with desperation, playing with urgency. Again, what good teams do, playing big in high leverage situations and pulling stuff out that they potentially should not have.
Right. And so let's fast forward a little bit. This is the third quarter, 3:07 on the clock. This is a 16-yard completion to Shakir. The Bills end up finishing this drive 21 to go up 21-13. But it's the play I talked about earlier. You get that short motion to the trips bunch. You're getting the wide receiver pulling that middle of the field defender right here in Kendricks. And we saw earlier, you saw a corner from Kincaid, and then you saw the in-breaking route a little deeper by Gabe Davis. But on this play, they run it a little differently. They run a follow concept. So they're going to have Shakir come in behind those 2 receivers. And then you have that passing lane right there. You have that passing lane because this guy's going with a crossing route. These guys are going over the top of that vertical route. And this guy's out leveraged to the middle of the field. But the throw is actually not all that good. It's on the back hip by Shakir. And he has to adjust to that ball, spin around, and he's able to reel it in for the 16-yard gain. So once again, a nice little package play here that is made to look similar to the other play before, but instead of going into that intermediate area, this is more into that short area on this down, in behind those 2 receivers to help complete this play for 16 yards.
You hit it with the motion and the ability to kind of stretch that passing window open and present that easy button option for Josh Allen. And that's been something Joe Brady has been very adept at in his tenure as Bills OC. The ability to manipulate second level defenders and pull defenders, especially linebackers, from the middle of the field and create vacancies and windows in that middle and allow them to be replaced with Bills tight ends or receivers has been really well done. Shout out to Shakir, like you said, on this one for the adjustment. Man, like, again, I hate to nitpick, but if Allen puts this on his front shoulder and it's a good throw, it leads him, like you have highlighted right there, puts it more on the hash.
He could take off.
Yes, absolutely. There's a chance he gets upfield and makes this into an even bigger play than it is. Defenders are being pulled towards the bottom and the left there. Yep, that safety is going with Mr. Dawson Knox. You've got Davis on the backside with Gabe Davis, who's following him, and he's also working across the field. Kendricks isn't going to catch Shakir. If this is on that front shoulder, the only chance you have is Gilman, number 32, maybe running him down from behind at that point. But man, this could have been a really big potential gain for Khalil Shakir. So a bit disappointing there, and also I think a bit, again, of a microcosm of Allen not being his sharpest in this game, but he made big plays when he needed to. But even when there were wide open windows with easy throws, still off at times in this game.
Right. And one narrative I kind of want to bust in this game is because I feel like it's one of those perception versus reality moments where the Bills offensive line somewhat struggled in this game. And while there was, I think, 34% pressure rate on Josh Allen in this game, I think there's only 2 pressures that were surrendered by the Bills offensive line. So some of PFF's allowed pressure rates or allowed pressure stats, they attribute some of that to a quarterback, but also they also attribute it to the offensive line. They kind of divvy up the responsibility for the sacks. And the Bills O-line only gave up 2. 60% of the pressures allowed on the day were actually on Josh Allen, as we showed. Sometimes late to guys, sometimes just not reading the correct guys. On this way, this was just an inaccurate pass. But look at all the work that the offensive line and how they're dealing with these different stunts and guys that are looping. And then this guy's over here, this guy's over here. And Josh still has time to hit the wide receiver for that 16-yard gain. So that's one thing that really kind of irked me about this game. You know, some of the storylines that have come out after the game is that the Bills offensive line had, did they have their moments? Yeah. But I think especially we're talking the passing game, I think that they did a great job. Was the run game a little inconsistent? Yes, because the Chargers did adjust. And they play that Brandon Staley type defense where they're playing those interior defensive linemen are playing like gap and a half type plays. And I thought Nick Williams and Austin Johnson did a great job of doing that in this game. And they had the Bills scouted out when it came to the dart runs. But that's going to happen. It is going to happen.
Yeah. And also within that, I think, and this actually leads into a good comment here from Sweep Swap, who says we need to find another bread and butter run other than dart in case a team has an answer for it. The Bills do have other concepts that can be bread and butter. We showed that mid-zone run earlier in the year. We showed how good and successful they were on duo, especially with James Cook being able to get one-on-one with corners and bounce it outside or take it inside. They have other options in the run game. And I think part of the narrative with the O-line in this game is, a couple, pressures that may have been surrendered. And then you pair that with the lack of success on those dart concepts. And I think the feeling was, the offensive line got bullied in this one. But no, they were extremely successful on these mid-zone runs and on duo runs. We honestly, Eric, could have done legitimately like a 30-40 minute segment just on all the mid-zone and duo stuff and showed you the success of the offensive line and the hand technique and the footwork and the play in unison. So the O-line, again, once Brady ID'd the concept that was going to work for them on the ground other than dart, they started to get into their bag and really started to, win on that side of the ball. One last thing on that previous play, you don't have to go back for it, but that one was another one where Alohi Gilman is telling Eric Kendricks to stay, and Kendricks just goes with Sherfield anyway. It's just, there's so many
right through it.
Yeah, it just runs right through the stop sign.
All right, so we're gonna go late in the game here, fourth quarter, 3rd and 8 situation here. This is an 11-yard completion to Stephon Diggs, and Diggs was kind of quiet for most of this game. And on that final drive, though, they went to him several times, 3 targets on that final drive. And this is one of them. He's in the slot to the bottom of the screen. And just to speed out, there's really this is not an X's and O's play. This is a Jimmy's and the Joe's play. You find your best player. And Josh, man, I mean, talk about, clutch throw here from the far hash at the 46-yard line. And he's hitting it outside the numbers to the boundary at the 34 yard 34 yard line. Like, that's a dot from Josh Allen on 3rd and 8 in a critical moment when they needed the big play, and he connects with Diggs for that 11-yard gain.
And that's not bad coverage. Like, Diggs breaks it out and the corner takes a pretty good angle and he's in decent position to make a play. If Allen doesn't put this ball where he puts it, this gets batted down. Defender goes with his outside arm, crosses over the face of Diggs, does everything you're supposed to from a textbook standpoint, trying to generate that PBU. But the timing of the throw, when Allen starts to throw this ball, boom, right there, he's cocked and loaded. Diggs is just starting to get into his break. So the timing from Allen is good here. And then you pair that timing with his arm strength that allows him to be late on throws, but this time he's not late. So you've got good timing, good rhythm with that strong arm, tremendous ball placement. And then also, Eric, I really like the route from Diggs. If you play it just in regular motion off the snap, he comes out of the blocks hot and eats up that cushion. And when he breaks, there is very little gear change or pace change in his route. He runs this thing hot and with pace from the jump, and he's able to eat up that cushion and then maintain that bit of separation or create that bit of separation out of the break because he's operating with that consistent pace throughout. It's a really well-run route from a pacing standpoint and a setup standpoint. And like you said, an absolute dot from Josh Allen in a moment, again, where they needed it, 3rd down on that final drive where they needed to put up points.
You mentioned anticipation on that throw, and we showed you plays at the beginning of this game where Josh wasn't anticipating it, but you saw him in those critical moments, like that throw to Diggs on 3rd and 8. He anticipated that throw on this play. I mean, talk about anticipation to Shakir. This was a huge play in the 4th quarter, 3rd and 4 situation, 2:34 left on the clock. This completion, thanks to the anticipation of Josh Allen, is what allowed the Bills to kind of run a lot of this clock off. So a clutch play from Josh Allen, but also Shakir, which is why we're calling this our easy loan auto sales, making it look easy play of the game. This play, Josh Allen, Khalil Shakir on that wheel route, that choice concept that we've broken down several times. And he's able to withstand that pressure, buy a little time, anticipate that Shakir's going to be where he should be right here. Look at Josh. He's already starting that throw. And he's able to hit Shakir to, once again, kind of run the clock out. it was almost better that he didn't score a touchdown
Yes,
on this
I
play, right?
wanted them to overturn it. I was like, please call him down. Please call him down. Please call him down. Yeah, I wanted that clock dead and bled.
Yeah, it was good stuff. And it's so many good things happen on this play. Like you can see James is a slot defender here. It looks like he's supposed to blitz, but
This was
because
awesome. This was
yeah,
so awesome from Derwin James. Yeah, talk about it. Sorry, I got
because
excited.
no, because number 3, the James Cook out of the backfield is actually exiting out of the backfield. They're expecting Josh to keep this running back in to help block up this blitz look, but Cook releases, and I think that caught James off guard. And he said, "Oh, that guy's releasing. He's the hot." He took his hot away. Josh said in his post-game presser, totally took away the hot route here. So Josh had to again buy time and find Shakir down the field. And this is something that happened. We talked about during the Eagles week when they played the Eagles, and this stuff happened at the end of that game. Look what happens to these DBs on this switch release. They get jammed up. It leaves Shakir wide open, and Josh was clutch in this moment, completing it to Shakir.
Yeah, poor job on the back end from the Chargers. That, stuff that really has plagued them all year. We made a couple jokes throughout the Bills offensive portion of this film in terms of communication breakdowns for the Chargers, and what you see on the bottom of the screen, just not a good pass off. There's no, okay, I'm going to stay inside, you stay outside, we'll pass this off. No, we're going to stay with our men, but I'll get over the top. Like, it's just muddled and chaos. Technically, even like Hardy gets open too because the defenders collide with one another. But just what a throw from Allen, fading away off his back foot. And just to have that's actually a great image, the way you had it freeze frame just on that right foot. He's, I made the baseball analogy earlier with one of the throws he made. This one is like a shortstop, making a play on his backhand going towards third base and then throwing it across his body to first. Like this takes arm strength. This takes body control and torque. This is one of those arm arrogance, arm strength throws, however you want to label it. And the fact that it gets there on time to Shakir, that Allen trusts Shakir, that Shakir is able to make that read. Man, Shakir has been so good on this choice concept all year, like knowing when to push it up on the wheel, when to pop it inside, when to sit down on the deep sit or the deep hook. He's been so good at reading the leverage and making these plays. And I think it's part of the reason Josh trusted him here in this moment. And again, this isn't an easy throw, like fading away, leaning back, off your back foot, pressure in your face. So it's not even like your momentum is just carrying you away. Your momentum is carrying you away, and you have a defender in your face that you also have to get the ball over or around. And Allen's able to drop it right to Shakir again in a huge moment. The Bills needed this to potentially run out the clock so they didn't have to put the defense back on the field. And this play has no right being like the easy loan auto sales, like making it look easy play of the game, because this is extremely difficult for both guys. But man, just a good feel by Khalil Shakir, a ridiculous play from Josh Allen. And that's why it is they may be misleading in the name, but that's why it is our making it look easy loan auto sales play of the game. Easy loan auto sales, regardless of your credit situation, they can help you get behind the wheel and on the road to better credit. All of their vehicles include a 2-year, 24,000-mile warranty, and they have 3 convenient locations in Buffalo, Lockport, and Niagara Falls. They can get you driving today. Go to easyloanauto.com to start your accelerated approval. Their information can be found in our episode show notes here on YouTube and on whichever podcasting app or platform you're listening to this show on.
Yeah, awesome stuff. A great way to end that game, but also this film room. Josh coming through in the clutch. Shakir, unsung hero in this game as well. He had that 16-yard catch over the middle on that packaged play, and then you saw him being in the right spot on that play, and Josh has shown that he trusts him as the season has progressed. He has shown a lot more trust in Shakir, especially when you compare it to like last year when there were some times where Shakir screwed up some run blocks, was in the wrong spot in some of the option routes, drops. He had some drops at times. I think he's come a long way, and I do believe that the Bills trust in him and believe in him going forward, and he's going to play a role. We saw the screen and on the first drive, that little screen out of the trips look. That's where he again his bread and butter is. So it's going to be interesting to see his role going forward beyond this year because he is going to be a part of the Bills offense going forward.
Yeah, he's a real interesting piece as whatever happens for the rest of this year. Gabe Davis being a free agent this upcoming offseason, like, has he potentially priced himself out? Does he even like potentially like does he want to come back? Like whatever's happening, like typical free agent stuff, guys like to test the market, see what their value is. But between Shakir and Knox and Kincaid, like there's a case to be made. Okay, like is option number 2 already on this roster? Option 3, so on and so forth. Do the Bills address wide receiver 2 or at some point top level or top of the depth chart wide receiver in free agency? Or the draft is loaded with a lot of wide receiver potential, not just in the first round, but in rounds 2 and 3 potentially as well. It's a loaded wide receiver class. So do the Bills invest there with draft capital and draft resources? And Shakir's an interesting piece. He, you know, like you said, he's really started to come on this year and been clutch in a lot of moments. And Brady's done a good job using him with his run after catch ability and his ability to have that feel for leverage and spacing. And we're starting to see, and I mean this in a positive way, not like he's reverting back, but we're starting to see more of that Boise State Khalil Shakir, that run after the catch, that feel for leverage and space, good hands, tough, hard-nosed player, Khalil Shakir. And it's a nice fit in this offense that's needed that type of player with the options that he provides. And awesome for him to have a huge moment on that third down and a great play from Allen. I also think it was cool too from a football perspective, like so many cool things happening on that play. Like what Derwin James did there is awesome from a football IQ recognition standpoint, but then also the athleticism to put on the brakes and then pop out and cover. He locks down Cook. There's nowhere to go. That's an amazing play, but that amazing play is trumped by other amazing plays from the Bills. That's just, man, like good against good. That's good football versus good football. You're going to feel, you know, pretty robbed if you're the Chargers on that play because you had it. Great schemed up pressure. Great job from James. But, man, that's good ball on both sides. And just one side made it.
Think about it. If they have to just, you know, kick a field goal at that moment, how much time's on the clock?
Bang.
Like that bought them a few more plays, and obviously
there would have been about 2 minutes and 30 seconds or something roughly on the clock. Like, and they would have had more timeouts in their bag as well.
Yeah. So that was a huge play. And I think Josh Allen referenced that after the game and how big that was. And again, that trust in Shakir definitely showed. Just again, both sides of the ball. You know, they made the plays when they had to. Was it ugly at times? Absolutely.
Yeah.
But what we always talk about it, even in the losses, there's a lot of good things that happen within a play. And that's why we can enjoy, you know, even some of the losses, and it can be therapeutic in many ways, but you get to, you know, deconstruct what happened on the play and what happened in the game. And there can be a lot of positives. Maybe one thing goes wrong, but there are a lot of positives within the play, within the game. And I think this game was kind of like that from the overall, you know, perspective, that there was some ugly plays. There were some, you know, down moments, but the better team made the plays when they were needed.
Absolutely. And like we talked about, that's what I hate using these type of phrases because I know this is where people try to like get at us, be like, oh, like, of course you're like homers are trying to find the silver lining or whatever. Like, but these are the type of wins good football teams have. You are not going to blow out every opponent in any sport ever. You need to be able to win games when the other team is bringing it or when you are not bringing your best. And I thought Rodney Harrison had a really good point in the pregame leading up to this game, talking about, you know, this is a regime change going on in Los Angeles. A lot of these players are auditioning for their jobs going forward, both established guys and or non-established guys. So I know a bunch of people were talking about like, oh, well, you know, the Chargers probably are dead in the water. They feel like, oh, this season is done. They're going to pack it in. No, like you can make the case that they're going to come out even harder and try and play for their jobs and their livelihood. And I think they did in a lot of ways. And their coach had them ready to play. Their good players played good. Mack had some flashes. Derwin had some flashes. Eckler had some flashes. Easton Stick was playing his heart out, although he kind of pussyfooted a little bit at times by the sideline and running the ball. I was really like, dude, you're trying to play for a job, man. Like you got to stick your nose in there on those runs. But, you know, yeah, they had dudes who brought it. And, you know, I don't know if it was the Christmas weekend or the travel from, I'm also a big proponent of like, I think there is an inherent disadvantage for West Coast teams traveling to the East and East Coast teams traveling to the West. Yeah. Bills had that, you know, going to the West Coast, night game, holiday weekend, potential malaise or trap or all that kind of stuff, whatever you want to chalk it up to. The Bills didn't bring their best for a majority of this game, and they still found a way to win. And there's positives to take away from that, Eric, like you said. And I think that's where the tape, you know, is really such a nice piece for us. Because if you're just watching the broadcast game, you're coming away being like, man, the Bills sucked all over. The offensive line played terrible. This was bad. That was bad. Taylor Rapp sucks, yada, yada, yada. But when you watch the tape and put it on, and I hope this is the takeaway from everybody who watched this episode tonight, there were a lot of positives. Even in a sloppy, potential underwhelming win, there were a lot of positives to take away on both sides of the ball, and all leading to that big situational high leverage play that allowed them to win the game.
Yeah, stack the dubs, man. That's all that matters at this point. Just stack those wins. And again, keep going forward and learning from some of the mistakes that happen within a play, within an assignment. Just keep moving forward. They're starting to come together as a team late in the year, and I want to see them rewarded, not just at the end of the season, but again, making it to the playoffs, taking that next step when it comes to goals in the season.
Absolutely. And as we start to wrap here on the show, Eric, round 2 versus New England in Buffalo this week. Another must win for the Buffalo Bills. Opportunity to clinch a playoff spot in this game, but also the opportunity to win this game paired with a Dolphins loss to the Ravens to fight for the AFC East crown in week 18 against Miami. As we start to close the book on this Chargers game and look forward, as we usually do when we wind down on these episodes, where's your head at? Is it on something in particular to this New England game? Is it something bigger picture to the season as a whole? Is it the potential return of Daquan Jones? Where is your head at right now? As we close the book on the Chargers and start to look forward here for the rest of the season for the Bills.
I am interested to see how Belichick and that Patriots defense deploys their coverages against the Bills. Are they going to be, again, more zone, more man? What types of coverages are they going to have to double digs at times? Are they going to just, believe in their secondary? Because there's some really athletic guys that can confuse quarterbacks at times, and they have some speed. And in many ways, match up if they were to go mano man up across the board. In many ways, could match up pretty well with some of the Bills' targets. Now, then you look at Brady, like, okay, each week he's done something a little different. Sometimes he's targeting running backs. Sometimes it's tight ends. Sometimes he's using 12 personnel. Sometimes it's 21 personnel, 22 personnel, bringing those extra offensive linemen. Like, it's going to be interesting to see the chess match between Joe Brady and Belichick and that Patriots defense, because they are going to try to ruin the Bills season. Like,
Absolutely.
They're going to try and ruin the Bills season. This is their Super Bowl. This is their Super Bowl. At the game, in the final week, it doesn't matter to them. This is their opportunity to spoil the Bills season and really pay Josh Allen back for some of his dominance over the years of that team.
I was going to say, this is a lot of the dudes on this team were on the Pats team that the Bills beat towards the end of the regular season a couple years ago that helped them go on to win the AFC East and then put that wild card matchup in Buffalo where the Bills absolutely beat the crap out of the Pats. Like, a lot of these dudes are on that team. They remember that. They would love nothing more than to come into Buffalo and ruin the Bills season. And even last year too, the Bills end of the year game against New England in Buffalo knocked the Pats out of the playoffs. Like, they would love to get some revenge. I'm in a similar thought from a look forward standpoint in this game. The Patriots run D is really good. They're second in DVOA versus the run. They're first in EPA per rush allowed at -0.21. The Falcons are second at -0.15. So there's a good gap between the Pats and everyone else. The Bills offense has, I think at this point, it's no coincidence when they struggle to run the ball, they struggle to get things going offensively. And so I'm interested to see, what kind of run game do the Bills lean into in terms of concept? What works for them? Can they get the run game going? And then, like you said, what do we see on the back end from Belichick? Belichick has been a big, give Stephon Diggs attention type of guy. But like we broke down in last week's episode and like we've talked on this show, teams have been able to take away Stephon Diggs with just something as simplistic as player corners with inside leverage. Like, teams aren't doing crazy things schematically to take him away. So how many resources or, mental, aspects does Belichick have to commit to stopping Diggs? Does he still see that as the number one thing to take away? Is it something else? Can he take away Diggs while not having to commit too much, thus giving him resources to take away something else? Like you said,
Josh
that
Allen.
chest. Yeah. Right. Like, boom. He's talked so much, and Matt Judon has said it before too. I think a couple of years ago, like, priority one for the Patriots defense is taking away the legs of Josh Allen, and they usually have not been able to do that. So is that still priority one? How do they do it? if I wasn't so nervous as a Bills fan, I think I would enjoy the chess match more from a football standpoint. But this game, yeah, if you're a Bills fan, time to get ratcheted up and get juiced up for this game. But even as a football fan, I know the Patriots are sitting there at 4-11 and they suck in a lot of ways, but the Pats D versus the Bills offense is going to be a really fun, good against good chess match aspect in this game, and one to enjoy. As a pure football fan, it's going to be exciting.
Yeah, especially at 1 p.m.
1 p.m. games are elite. I know. I know it's nice to have primetime back in the fold, but man, primetime games are nice. 1 p.m. is the best. 4 p.m. games on Sundays suck. I hate that. Like, I'm excited to get back into that 1 p.m. fold. And no matter what happens in this game against the Patriots, good or bad, we will have it all covered, explaining the hows and whys of what happened next week in the Cover One Film Room, Wednesday, 7 p.m. Eastern. But I think, Eric, unless you got anything else, I think it's going to do it for us here in this episode of the Film Room. Major thank you to everybody who rode with us live in this episode. You know, it's a holiday week, and again, like, the win was underwhelming, like we talked about. So a lot of things potentially happening where people might not want to tune in, but the attendance was great tonight. The engagement between you folks in the chat and engagement with us was awesome. Many, many thanks to Jabo and Morning Maya and Miss Linda West for your super chats. Thank you very much for being here just in general, but especially your monetary donations. That means a ton to us. So thank you very much for that. Again, thank you to everybody who rode with us live on this episode. If you have not already dropped a like on this video, please, 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 and thank you. Drop a like on this video, whether you're watching live now or watching post live later. Likes are the lifeblood of these streams and the algorithm. So please, 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 and thank you. Drop a like on this video for us. If you are listening to the show on one of the podcasting apps or platforms, that's cool too. Please rate and review and subscribe to the Cover One Film Room on whatever podcasting app or platform you're listening to this show on. Subscribe to the Film Room here on YouTube. Subscribe to the Cover One channel as a whole. As a brand, we have you covered pretty much every single day of the week with Buffalo Bills coverage, varying levels of depth, entertainment pieces, X's and O's, whatever your brand of content is, whatever you find entertaining, whatever you're looking for knowledge, we have you covered here at Cover One for anything and everything Buffalo Bills and football related as well. So give the subscription there to Cover One as a whole. Thank you very much again to everybody who joined us live. If you enjoyed this episode, please, 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 and thank you. Tell your family and friends and loved ones about how fantastic it is. Word of mouth is still a tremendous support aspect for us. Subscribe and sign up to the Cover One Pass piece. Become an insider like RJ and many of the other people in the chat. Appreciate all the kind words coming through for the brand and myself and Eric. We appreciate you folks, and we hope you and your family and friends and loved ones are all doing well and staying safe. Be kind to one another. Take care of one another. If you're going to the game this weekend, have fun, have a ball, be safe, enjoy New Year's Eve as well, which is also this Sunday. So hopefully the Bills bring in the new year with another dub and they keep stacking them and route to the playoffs. But until next week's episode of the Film Room, 7 p.m. Eastern, I am Anthony Prohaska. That is Eric Turner. This has been another episode of the Film Room. We'll see you next Wednesday, 7 p.m. Eastern. But until then, Godspeed. And as always, go Bills.